This is the kind of NASCAR moment that sends the entire fan base into absolute chaos. Because the second Tyler Reddick beat Shane Van Gisbergen at COTA, people didn't just react, they exploded. I'm talking about a full meltdown. Fans screaming cheating. Social media going off. People acting like NASCAR had a full-blown credibility crisis on its hands before the cars were even back in the garage. And then all eyes turned to one man, Shane Van Gisbergen. Because when the road course king gets beaten late on a track like Circuit of the Americas, everybody wants to know what he's going to say. Is he furious? Is he calling somebody out? Is he exposing something bigger? That's what made this story feel so massive in the moment. Not just the finish, the reaction to the finish. Because what happened at COTA didn't just create a winner. It created a storm. And if you're a real NASCAR fan who lives for these kinds of high-pressure moments, these heated debates, and these raw post-race breakdowns, hit like and subscribe right now, because this channel is for people who actually care about the sport. We're building a real NASCAR community here, one that doesn't just chase headlines, but digs into what these races actually mean. So if COTA got your blood pumping, you are absolutely in the right place. Now let's set this up, because the stakes were already sky high before the green flag ever dropped. This was the Duramax Texas Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas, NASCAR's first road course race of the 2026 Cup season, and Tyler Reddick came into it on a heater. The number 45 driver for 23XI Racing had already won the Daytona 500. He had already backed that up with another win at Atlanta. So now he was trying to do something no driver in NASCAR history had ever done. Win the first 3 races of a Cup season. That alone makes the pressure enormous. But then you add Shane Van Gisbergen to the mix in the number 97 Trackhouse Chevrolet, the guy who had become the most feared road racer in the series, the guy chasing a 6th straight road course victory. Let that sink in. One driver was chasing season-opening history. The other was defending road course dominance. That is a collision course for drama. And the race itself absolutely delivered. This was not one of those afternoons where one guy lucks into track position and everybody else just accepts it. There were layers to this thing. Ross Chastain came alive and grabbed stage 1. Ty Gibbs took stage 2. Ryan Blaney stayed relevant. Christopher Bell was hanging around. Michael McDowell quietly made himself a factor. Connor Zilisch had a wild day full of recovery attempts and missed opportunities. The strategy was constantly shifting, which is exactly what makes COTA so dangerous. Teams were playing the pit cycle, stage points, tire management, and caution timing all at once. Every decision mattered because on a road course like this, one slightly mistimed stop can destroy your whole race. Through all of that, Tyler Reddick kept doing exactly what elite drivers do when they know the pressure is mounting. He stayed in control. He stayed fast. He stayed clean. He ended up leading a race-high 58 of the 95 laps, and that stat is important because it tells you this wasn't some random upset. He didn't steal it. He didn't back into it. He was one of the class cars all day long. But even then, fans still weren't ready to believe what they were watching once the race entered its final phase. Because when Shane Van Gisbergen started closing late, the entire emotional tone of the event changed. That's where the panic starts when SVG is involved. He has built that kind of reputation. If he gets close enough late on a road course, the assumption is that the pass is coming. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not with some wild dive bomb. But eventually. He applies pressure like almost nobody else in the sport. So when the key late caution came out after Ross Chastain lost a wheel, the whole race got compressed into a final showdown. Lap 79 restart, Reddick leading. Blaney right there. Van Gisbergen restarting third. Then SVG attacks through the S's, gets around Blaney. And suddenly the race becomes exactly what everybody had been waiting for. Tyler Reddick versus Shane Van Gisbergen for history at COTA. And this is where the fan reaction went completely off the rails, because instead of fading under the pressure, Reddick responded like a driver who knew exactly what was at stake. Every time SVG got close, Reddick found another answer. Every time it looked like the number 97 might finally force a mistake, the number 45 stayed composed. There were laps where you could feel the tension through the screen. You were just waiting for one missed braking point, one weak launch off the corner, one opening into turn 1. But it never came. Reddick defended. He managed the gap. He kept the car underneath him. And then, little by little, he started pulling away. By the time the checkered flag fell, the final margin was 3.944 seconds. Now that number is exactly why this turned into what people started calling a cheating crisis. Because emotionally, a lot of fans could not process what they had just seen. Not because Reddick isn't talented. He absolutely is. But because beating Shane Van Gisbergen late on a road course has started to feel almost impossible in the minds of many fans. So when it happened, People instantly started looking for another explanation. They weren't asking how Reddick executed so well. They were asking what must have been wrong. That's how fast the conversation shifted. Suddenly, this wasn't just a historic win. It was a trust issue, a credibility issue, a NASCAR problem. And here's the thing. This is where the story gets much more interesting than the headline. Because if you were expecting Shane Van Gisbergen to come out after the race and accuse Tyler Reddick of cheating, that didn't happen, not even close. In fact, what SVG said completely cut against the outrage. He admitted his team lacked a little bit of turn and a little bit of drive. He said Reddick was amazing. He said Tyler's driving was immaculate. He basically explained that every time he got close, Reddick would step it up again. That is not the language of a driver exposing a scandal. That is the language of a driver admitting he got beat by somebody who executed at a very high level. That matters a lot. Because while the fan base was spiraling, the driver at the center of the so-called controversy was actually giving Reddick respect. And to me, that is the real tension in this story. The title screams crisis. The internet screams cheating. The comment sections go nuclear. But the facts tell a more disciplined story. Reddick led 58 laps. He won from the pole. He held off Ryan Blaney. He held off SVG. He made history as the first driver ever to win the opening 3 races of a Cup season. And post-race inspection found no issues with the car. Let that sink in. The official check didn't uncover some explosive scandal. The bigger explosion was the reaction from the fan base. At the same time, I understand why emotions run so hot. This wasn't just another race on the schedule. This was 23XI Racing making a massive statement. Michael Jordan was celebrating on pit road. Billy Scott and the number 45 team looked sharp all day. Reddick's win gave him a huge early points advantage, 70 points over teammate Bubba Wallace, with Chase Elliott 72 back. That is serious separation this early in the season. And when one team starts looking that strong, people get suspicious fast. That's just how this sport works now. Fans don't only react to what happens. They react to what they think it means, and what this means is huge. Tyler Reddick has now proven that he can go head-to-head with the most feared road course driver in the field and come out on top under maximum pressure. That changes how the garage sees him. That changes how fans see him. That changes how every future road course battle between these two will feel. And on the other side, SVG may have finished second, but he also showed why he still carries so much weight in the sport. The entire fan reaction was based on the simple fact that people find it hard to believe he can be beaten in that situation. That tells you how high his standard has become. So maybe the real crisis here is not cheating. Maybe it's trust. Maybe NASCAR's biggest issue is that the second something shocking happens, too many fans assume the sport must be broken. Because what happened at COTA looked dramatic, felt dramatic, and created a dramatic reaction. But when you actually listen to SVG, when you actually look at the race flow, and when you actually consider the inspection results, the picture becomes a lot clearer. Tyler Reddick didn't survive a scandal. He survived pressure. And that might be even more impressive. So now I want to hear from you. Did Tyler Reddick prove at COTA that he can beat anybody, anywhere, even Shane Van Gisbergen on a road course? Or do you still think SVG remains the true road course king? And this was just one day where everything lined up for the number 45. And maybe the bigger question, is NASCAR dealing with a cheating crisis or a fan trust crisis? Drop your take in the comments, and if you want more NASCAR passion, more honest reactions, and more big race breakdowns like this video, comment below and subscribe right now, because this community is just getting started.